Recorded at the WNDU 16 News Now studios, this is the South Bend Tribune's Pot of Gold Notre Dame Football Podcast. Here are your hosts, columnist Tom Noie, Notre Dame football beat writer Mike Berardino, and WNDU's Jackson Neill.
Yes, indeed, we have made it through spring practice, through the blue gold game, summer, preseason camp. Who's going to be the quarterback? No more talking. It's game week. And Jackson, how do you know that it's game week around Notre Dame?
I saw some porta potties.
Nope, we're not.
I was going to say the same.
We're not going porta potties direction. Oh. If you're standing outside the Irish Athletic Center on Wednesday night, I'm so screwed up with my days.
Me too. I thought Tuesday was Monday the entire day.
Is today? What's today? If you're standing outside the IAC on Wednesday, like Mike Berardino and I were, you heard crowd noise being pumped into the practice fields.
We could say that now?
We could.
I think we can. I think we can.
We couldn't say that? We couldn't report that they when
not until the last spoken word of the availability. That's how it works.
That we can say they had crowd noise.
No, we could report anything from even overheard practice.
Where if you're driving down Twickenham or walking around anywhere on campus, you'd be able to hear the crowd noise.
Correct.
So that means it is game week because we heard the crowd noise that they may or may not be dealing with at Hard Rock Stadium on Saturday.
Didn't seem as well, maybe because last year, we can talk about the A&M noise, right? Last year, it was that war chant or the hymn, whatever they call it.
Yell leaders.
And, wow, that was super loud. But this was just kind of like fancy people warbling.
Orange out.
Orange
it
out.
Is an orange out.
You could almost hear the color.
You could.
Is your orange packed?
No orange, no green, no gold, no blue.
Got to stay impartial.
I'd wear, I do that for any game. I try, sometimes I might screw up, but I do think in those terms because, going back in multiple markets, if you showed up in the other team's color, that would, like somebody might look sideways at you.
Well, showing up. What about showing up in the same team's colors? I'm going to have to tell a story, and Jackson will like this because it'll involve our friend Matt Freeman. Irish wear green on some Notre Dame men's basketball night. Guess who walks in wearing a Kelly green shirt? Matt Freeman. And I haven't forgotten about it because every time they have an Irish wear green game, I send him the picture that I took of him sitting in the press box looking forlorn and like, oh my God, I got to sit here for the next 3 hours in a green shirt. So
what a homer!
Absolutely
can't trust his reporting.
Anybody else on if there's anybody on the beat that's a homer, it would be Matt Freeman of Irish Sports Daily.
Doesn't even have a podcast to come back at us with.
He doesn't. We love you though, Matt. So football Sunday, Notre Dame number 5, Miami number 10, Hard Rock Stadium 7:30. The first of at least four 7:30 starts this year for the Notre Dame football team. This game will be on ABC. It is the 5th straight season and the 6th time in the last 7 that Notre Dame opens on the road. The only time through there, I should say not on the road. They open 5th straight time and 6 of the last 7 away from home. One of those obviously was against Navy in Dublin. The last time Notre Dame had an opener at home, 2020 versus Duke, and that was only because of the COVID-19 pandemic that rejuggled that schedule. Otherwise, Notre Dame would have played in Dublin to open 2020. So, and you guys realize this might be the first of 3 trips to Hard Rock Stadium in 2025?
And we were just there too in 2025. Yeah, technically.
So it'll be this game against Miami, regular season. The Orange Bowl is also one of the sites for the College Football Playoff quarterfinal, and the College Football National Championship game will also be held in Hard Rock Stadium. So the Irish may be taking up residency in South Florida. Will Notre Dame get to a national championship game? Maybe you'll have to stay tuned later on in this pod. We'll offer some predictions about what's coming for the Notre Dame football team this regular season and maybe beyond. We have heard from Marcus Freeman on Tuesday. We heard from a whole bunch of people. I think we talked to every single scholarship player available on Wednesday night. It just seemed that way. There were
Can't complain. We're not going to complain.
Absolutely. Nobody's
bring
complaining.
The 6 captains out. They deserve that.
They got 6 captains and the starting quarterback and Jordan Faison.
Yeah.
So a plethora of people to hear from this week. All 3 coordinators as well. Marty Biaggi, Mike Denbrock, Chris Ash, and Marcus Freeman. Anything from any of these guys the last 2 days jump out at you and say, whoa, I'm looking forward to that, or I didn't know that heading into the opener.
That's a broad avenue.
It is broad.
I'll let whatever your name is, Jackson.
Jordan.
It's only season 2 of us doing this together.
Drive down
maybe by
we just
season
talked
4.
about Faison. Everybody's Jordan.
Or Jaden.
Jaden. Jalen. There's a lot of Jalens.
What do you got, Jay?
I mean, obviously the biggest things were Marcus Freeman talking about CJ Carr and just that whole decision-making process in terms of picking that starter and now how he's looking since the news came down. I mean, that was the biggest thing I was wondering about was just, okay, they announced this last Tuesday?
Yep.
I had to wait a full week then to hear from Marcus Freeman. There really wasn't anything, I feel like, groundbreaking he shared about it, but just to be able to finally hear him talk about that whole decision making and be like, okay, now the whole team's rallying around Carr. That was the biggest thing I was just kind of waiting to hear this week.
And him saying it was his decision.
Yes.
Like, I've got to make this decision, so this is on me. So we'll see.
It was interesting that he said the statistics that they were keeping, and it wasn't just the obvious ones, I'm sure. There's all kinds of arcane things, but it was very close. But you got a sense if that was a coin flip, was it CJ with a slight lead in most categories? Do you think that the predominant leader of the arcane stat categories was Minchie, and they just was like, well, that was just stats? But if CJ had been ahead by even a little bit, it'd been like, well, the stats. And so that's what there's no controversy. Everybody's moved on. Everybody's saying all the right things. But those out there who may have been pulling for Minchie or would love to have a look at those stats, the curiosity would be, well, how many categories did each lead of whatever the categories were that you deemed important? But in the end, trusting your gut means going back to what we talked about the last time we gathered, which was Marcus Freeman's had a vision with C.J. Carr in it as QB1 since they sat out on the veranda.
I saw the veranda when we were standing outside yesterday.
It's a nice spot.
That must be the veranda that Mike Berardino has talked about.
That's it. Yeah. It's a lot like at Disney. They at the castle, Cinderella's Castle's got one of those things where you can go out and wave to everybody. Of course, the Pope has a thing like that. Pope Leo and all the others for a certain time. You go out, whatever that little patio or whatever. You wave. Of course, right now it's just a lot of construction workers, and they got a visit from Marcus Freeman recently, wearing a cool T-shirt that should be available in stores soon with DMM for Deny My Man, and all proceeds.
Not SAS.
No, not that shirt yet, but that could be coming. That could be coming. Are we allowed to say that on this?
You can use the last word in parentheses. Still ain't stuff.
Stuff?
Still ain't stuff.
That doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
bite.
Well, we can't say that. Speaking of that word, it was funny. It was interesting in listening to Marcus Freeman talk of how C.J. Carr has maybe elevated his game since knowing that he's the starter. And he talked on Tuesday saying just the team and the offense and the quarterback knowing what direction they're going and just having the comfort level where Marcus Freeman said there may have been times where C.J. Carr would be hesitant to make that throw or wanted to make this throw, knowing Kenny Minchie's behind him and he's got to maybe press a little bit than otherwise he wouldn't have in preseason camp. And C.J. Carr talked about it last night. He said it's so much more different going into practice knowing I'm the guy as opposed to having Kenny Minchie behind me and being like, well, if I made a really good throw, he would think to himself, maybe that helped get me the job. Or he'd have a very bad throw, and he'd say, parentheses, shoot, I may have just cost myself the job with that throw. So it's something where they have the clarity now. They've had it now for over a week to get ready for Miami. C.J. Carr's the guy. Kenny Minchie, obviously not happy with the decision, but handling it as a pro. He's a pro. He's getting paid. Handling as professionally as he's been able to handle it. However this thing ends up, I think they're in good hands quarterback-wise moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, either one of these quarterbacks, I think the biggest thing coming out of it was just for me at least, how close it was more of a, both QBs seem like solid options. Both have these aspects to their game that would be high potential, since we haven't really seen either of them with much game time. So that was my biggest takeaway. It wasn't like neither one's a good option. It was almost, there were two solid options that was just kind of hard to pick from.
Some depth chart doings here as we do some housekeeping. Out for the Miami game, listed out in the injury report this week. Tight end Justin Fisher, right knee injury. Tight end Cooper Flanagan, left Achilles. He may be gone for most of the year. He hurt that in the Georgia Sugar Bowl game back in January. Offensive lineman Devin Houston's out with a left knee. Charles Jagusah still out with the left arm. And offensive lineman Peter Jones with a left ankle. We did not see Peter Jones in the last half of fall camp.
I saw him in the last practice.
The last one,
yeah. He had
missed a bunch.
He had missed a couple, but he was back for the last one. So that, maybe a nagging thing.
And elsewhere on the depth chart, Jordan Botelho, listed as the number 3 defensive end. Marcus Freeman said you may see Jordan Botelho on Sunday night. And then it's still an or. Flip a coin. You got a coin? Right guard, Gerby Lambert, Sullivan Absher. I think when it all comes down to it, they're going to start Gerby Lambert at their right guard spot.
I would agree in that. I almost feel like, based on Mike Denbrock's comments and then just what we've, little bit of observation that we do get to do, just the massive nature of Gerby at 335 or so. He's the bulldozer. Mm-hmm. And Denbrock mentioned a little bit about how the pass protection's gotten a little better for Gerby now that he's moved inside. He's got 2 people around him. That speaks of maybe some mobility concerns, in pass protection. Basically, as long as they're not behind by 2 touchdowns or more and have to throw it, I think Gerby's the road grader. And Sullivan Absher can pop. He's this year's Mr. Fix-It.
He's like Pat Coogan.
He can pop in anywhere.
Guard, where do you want me?
He can, center. You got a center in Ashton Craig, who's by all rights healthy, but hasn't played since week 3 with the ACL against Purdue. So, but if you need the mobility and it's going to be more pass oriented for game reasons, then you could see that's when Absher goes in there. Just a guess.
Speaking of, you mentioned passing, being down by 2 touchdowns. They're going to throw this ball. They're going to throw it around a lot on Sunday night, or 30 passes, more or less.
Under.
30.
If you're giving me the line at 29.5, I'm giving you
29.5.
I'm going to look for the all under and try to get like under 24.5. Like I don't see a lot of throwing this.
Yeah.
Or probably 26.5. Let's say.
I don't know if I want to drill down that point, but 29.5, I'm under.
Yeah.
And a couple of things jump out. You've had Marcus Freeman describe what, in terms of what he's looking for out of CJ. Every play doesn't have to be a bomb. Every play, he's telegraphing this. Remember, Miami has working internet as well. Every play doesn't have to be a bomb. Every play doesn't have to be a touchdown. Mike Denbrock comes out and says last night, we have to put him in a good spot. We have to protect him. We're not going to ask him basically to throw downfield. That's paraphrasing. I'll get the exact quote in a second for you. But all that made me think was, both of those comments, Tyler Buckner at Ohio State, first series, way downfield.
Well, there you go.
Way downfield.
Who's he going deep for?
And it was completed. Low Styles, I believe.
Who's he going to go for on Sunday night? Will Pauling?
Could be Faison.
Maybe Faison. Greathouse.
Probably Greathouse.
I'm going to go Great.
We haven't seen Greathouse in a while.
No.
Greathouse missed a practice where he seemed just on the side. He was taking mental reps, no rap or anything. But I'm a little surprised. We've had back-to-back Faison opportunities to speak and have not talked to Greathouse all fall. So if you're a Notre Dame fan, you're like, well, it'd be nice to have seen him out there with a smile on his face speaking as though he's fully healthy, ready to go. He was not on any injury report.
Nope.
But I think we all know those things are somewhat fluid. And haven't heard anything like that. But the radar goes up because this is a guy, obviously, coming off the last 2 games, the way he spoke in the spring, and you wrote about it, such obvious confidence. I don't think he said anything that would put him on ice in terms of media availability. He was just openly confident. And we haven't talked to him again.
Nope.
And we do know, connecting the dots, he was on the side of one of the 6 practices we were out there for, that he did not participate in the open portion of it. So you hope that even if he's been he's had hamstring problems in the past, a couple of years ago, and you hope that everything's good because he's important. That's a guy that, yes, you're right, you're looking downfield for that. But, they have some I like the way CJ volunteered yesterday that Malachi Fields is a mismatch anytime he needs him, basically. Is what he said.
To frame it, he talked about how when we were talking about, CJ Carr doesn't have to go for the home run every single play. Yeah. And he says he's learned if the boundary corner is Leonard Moore, don't throw it in Leonard Moore's direction. And then he couched it by saying, basically, I kind of can do that because I have Malachi Fields as the boundary receiver. And so everybody got a kick out of that. But he's like, you don't want to test Leonard Moore. And C.J. Carr has gotten better with that, saying, don't take the deep shot down the field as a possible reset or completion where maybe going underneath, you can get a big play off of that.
Yeah, I mean, and they have the skill position players to be getting the big plays.
Many
underneath. Like I think that's out of the backfield, and then the receivers, like someone like Faison, someone like Greathouse, like these are guys that you get the ball to them in space. That's where they're probably doing their best work. So, yeah, that's exactly the type of mindset he needs to be having. And I think that's the offense Denbrock will probably be drawing up. A lot of quicker throws, get the ball out of his hand, get some confidence up before you take any deep shots down the field and testing any corners.
Before we get to our guest spotlight, some series history. Notre Dame leads the all-time series with Miami 18-8-1. This is the first meeting at Hard Rock Stadium between Miami and Notre Dame since 2017. We won't say how that ended. 41-8, Notre Dame loss. The Irish are 6-7 all-time at Miami. Their last win in South Florida against the Hurricanes, 1977, 48-10. The Irish were ranked number 5. They have lost their last 6 games in South Florida against Miami, either the Orange Bowl or Hard Rock Stadium. And the average margin of defeat of those 6 games has been 27.8 points. The Irish have lost by 22, 20, 51, 24, 17, and 33 in South Florida. So guess what? I think the Irish are due to come back with a victory over Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, it feels like that. Looking at those stats earlier, it was kind of shocking, honestly, just to see how lopsided a lot of these games have been. I mean,
the 51 is an outlier.
Of course.
That was Jerry Faust's last game, and Jimmy Johnson said if they get down, we'll just pour on them and everything. So that was the one that really got away. But even if you take 51 out of there, I mean, those are still some lopsided.
Yeah, I'm still seeing a 33, a 24, 20, multiple in the 20s. Like it's still not great. I'm just a little surprised seeing all those all those differences.
Miami was pretty good. For a while, you may be aware they had a run there, 5 national titles.
Have you seen the history books, Jackson?
Yes, I've seen the history books because they were not.
This is not your dad's Miami. Maybe it's your uncle's Miami. Whatever. They ran roughshod over and they rubbed your nose in it.
Yes, they did.
And they caused a lot of pearl clutching. Mm-hmm. Nowhere more so than in South Bend, I'd say.
Down the street, down the street. Do the words Luther Campbell mean anything to you, Jackson?
They do, actually. I heard that in the ESPN 30 for 30.
Oh, you cheated.
Okay, well.
Uncle Luke. So Notre Dame is overdue, 18-8-1 all-time against Miami. So that's some series history stuff. We'll get to our guest spotlight. We'll get Speak Up. We got a basketball question in the Jackson Neill is all over.
Oh, yeah, he's from 2 Live Crew. That's what it's from.
Let's see. Delayed. We have some reader questions, listener questions to get to, and then prediction time. So, big show. We will get to our guest soon. Guest spotlight soon, coming up right here on Pot of Gold. Stay tuned. It's guest spotlight time here at Pot of Gold. So we bring in the voice of Miami Hurricanes, football, basketball, everything. Mike Berardino says, Joe Zagacki, you've been around forever in South Florida. So that's how I will introduce you, the forever voice of Miami Hurricanes athletics.
What, 83, yeah. Joe? You got started on the sideline, was it?
Yeah, my first go with University of Miami was 1983. That was a good season. They won the national championship. Our radio station got the rights to the game, so that was my first year on the broadcast, 83. But I'm born and raised here in South Florida. I grew up like 10 minutes from where the game is going to be played Sunday night.
So speaking of the game, let's start with this, Joe. What is it about this Miami Hurricanes team that has them the number 10 team in the country?
I think part of it would be the quarterback, Carson Beck. For some reason, I think he's been a bit disrespected in the offseason. But you look at his numbers at Georgia, played in the Southeast Conference. Everybody tells me how great the Southeastern Conference is. Southeastern Conference tells the world how great they are. This guy went 24-3 in the Southeastern Conference. Yep. So if it's Southeast Conference is as good as they say it is, 24-3 is pretty good with 58 touchdown passes and nearly 8,000 yards. So I think it starts there after Cam Ward. In the past, Miami would be in a position where you'd lose a player like Cam Ward, and then there'd be a dramatic drop-off. I'm not saying Beck is going to be as good as Cam Ward, but I feel a lot better that he's going into this game. I think it's his 40th game. So I think it starts there. Offensive line has been the pride and joy of Mario Cristobal. All of those guys have been recruited, except for the center who came through the transfer portal. It's pretty much the same with the defensive line. So a team that's been built inside out. Quite frankly, a couple years ago, Miami played in one of these games against Alabama, and I looked at it and said, man, there's not one guy on the roster, Miami roster, that could start for Alabama. And before that, Miami played LSU, and I looked at it and said, not one guy on this team that could start for LSU. In this game, I think Notre Dame would look at Miami and say, there are a lot of guys on Miami that could play for Notre Dame. Conversely, it used to be when Miami was Miami, you'd look at the other team and go, there's nobody on that team that could play for Miami. Now, there are a bunch of guys that are going to wear the Golden Dome on Sunday that Miami would be more than happy to have. But I think the matchup is more even, and this is why it's probably why Miami is picked at number 10 is because their roster has been completely revamped.
This time last year, Notre Dame was bringing in a graduate transfer quarterback who was coming off an injury, and so we saw very little and knew very little about what Riley Leonard was as a quarterback, as a leader on the field, what he was going to do for this program. How much of what you've been able to see from Carson Beck, graduate transfer, coming off an injury, have you seen anything in preseason that tells you, okay, this is the guy that went 24-3, like you said, at Georgia over his final 2 seasons?
Yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised. I wasn't sure what I was going to see after the injury, but I stand right in the sidelines during practice. I stand behind the defensive coordinator. I stand behind the offensive coordinator. And look, I'm not a coach, but my eyes tell me he's throwing the football with pretty good velocity. He's 6'5", so I think he doesn't get enough credit for his athleticism. Not that he's Cam Ward, but he can move in the pocket. And when he runs at 6'5", 220 pounds, he's not easy to bring down. He falls forward, he gets a first down. When he gets into trouble, or when he got in trouble at Georgia, it's when that pocket gets all muddy. And Notre Dame excelled at that a year ago. Probably a lot of quarterbacks would feel the same way. But I think at Miami, there's been good leadership, good rapport between him and his wide receivers. He makes no bones about what he wants to get done with his receivers, what he expects from them. I think he's been very good so far.
Joe, I'd like to, first, thank you for joining us, but I'd then like to say, I'm looking at MiamiHurricanes.com, the roster, and I think a lot of Notre Dame people probably checking out the roster, and I think it's pretty cool that they put the Instagram handle for all those guys. That's wise, and I think there's even ability to click through on some of these guys. You see the open doors availabilities, and so I think Notre Dame should look into that. It's a new era for that. You can decide how much it'd be to get the guy to come to your kid's birthday party. But Markel Bell, I want to know, he's 6'9", they list, but then I don't know how much he weighs.
Yeah, they take all the weights off.
I don't remember being so secretive about the weight. Now, I'm a little sensitive about my weight. I'm not going to tell you what I weigh, but this is college football, and I know the Instagram, and I know it's $29 they'll call my kid on the phone or whatever and give him a pep talk, and I think that's great. But what the heck does Markel Bell weigh? Because I need to know, because I think he's going to be a piece in this, or for that matter, any of them.
Well, it's funny you bring that up, Mike. He's 340 pounds. Now, I'm doing my chart, and I'm looking at our website, and I'm like, something's missing here. Where's the weight? Now, I have it on our roster, that I take with me to practice. So I don't know what the deal is on the website, why they don't put weights. But that being said, I look at a lot of different schools' websites and rosters. I think they're all crazy. I think they're all paranoid about something. At any rate, Markel Bell, while we're on him, he's a great story. He's 6'9", 340 pounds. He comes from Mississippi. He is one of these players that has got the biggest smile and is so grateful that he's got an opportunity to play football. He talks a lot about getting an education in Miami. He's just one of these kids you look at and go, I didn't know anything about him. And I hear him talking. We had an interview with him last couple of weeks ago and also last year. And his path to Miami and the trust that he's put in his offensive line coach, Alex Mirabal, it's a fascinating story. He's really smart, very grateful that he's here. I think he's a good story. He's 6'9". My concern is, and listen, I think they like him a lot because Jalen Rivers was injured a little bit last year, and they played Markel a lot. And I looked at it and I said, wait a minute, this guy is so tall, and we're going up against Louisville. How can he block smaller defensive linemen that are going to kind of zoom around him like a shark? Can he, can the elevator get down fast enough? But he was very effective, and I've got to believe that they've just invested so much time and energy in him. They feel good about his matchup with these edge rushers from Notre Dame. We'll find out. He's 6'9", 340, but he moves pretty good. There was a time where Miami offensive linemen weren't even anything like that, but he does remind me a little bit of Bryant McKinney.
How about a matchup between Markel Bell and Bryce
Young?
Young?
Yeah, I was about to
Bryce
say.
Young on Sunday.
Bryce Young.
6'9".
We pay to see that.
Yeah.
I think we're going
I
to
think
see
we'll
some
see
of
that, right? I mean,
yeah.
Young's got to be lined up against him or Maui Noah, and then Traore's got to be matched up against one of those guys. So a lot of people look at different things, but Miami's got it. What they think is a first-round pick at right tackle, and this gargantuan left tackle against two guys for Notre Dame that they think are tremendous edge rushers. I think it's a big part of the game.
Bryce Young, by the way, is 271 pounds officially on the website at fightingirish.com. That's the 6'7", 271. So a 70-pound difference in the tail of the tape. Don't know about the reach. And that's important. That's important. Hand size, all that. But that's that alone. Game within a game. So many good matchups. What's your name again? Jackson.
Thanks, Mike. Joe, I mean, one thing that I'm really curious about right now at this Miami program is Mario Cristobal's been there for a couple of years now, and we're seeing them start in the top 10. Just overall, what's the feeling around that campus, around that program with what Mario's doing? And is there the belief that he's still on the upward trajectory to take them to where they hope to get back to?
I think this season will tell a lot about that story. 5-7, 7-5, 10 wins. So I think you got to put some trust that he's going in the right direction. I do remember when he was at Oregon, he won the Rose Bowl, and his post-game speech was about how they took steps. 5 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins, then Rose Bowl champions. And I thought, well, I wonder if that will ever happen here at Miami. And so he's on that path. Now, that being said, he's on the right path. Roster looks good, recruiting at a high level. Miami's getting players that they were not getting 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that they did get 20 years ago. But they're getting those players now. The old Howard Schnellenberger, the fence around Miami. Yeah. Well, Mario's one of the guys that broke the damn fence down when he went to Alabama. So now he's putting that fence up. We're getting those guys. The only thing that I would say that has people a little bit nervous is didn't finish the season last year. Miami won 10 games. They should win 10 games all the time. If you win 10, something good is going to happen. They won 10. They needed to get to 11. And 11 was against either Georgia Tech or Syracuse. Miami couldn't beat them. Couldn't beat Georgia Tech and couldn't beat Syracuse. And that was, quite frankly, a little deflating. So, and then lost to Iowa State. So let's see what happens against Notre Dame. I think there's trust in Mario, but they've got to rebuild that trust a little bit after last year's finish.
When he's healthy, how good is Ruben Bain, and who are some of the other guys on defense to keep an eye on Sunday night?
Yeah, his freshman season Ruben Bain was great. People were comparing him to Reggie White. He's another guy that just I really like being around him. I was on the field the other day in the Miami scrimmage, and I thought it was funny. Offense is on one side, defense is on the other. Bain's not in the game, and Beck gets called for delay of game. And Ruben Bain's yelling out to Beck, "Come on, Carson! Come on, Carson! You got to watch the clock. Use that big brain of yours." Which Beck, by the way, had great football IQ. And I thought it was intriguing because at the time they're supposed to be competitors, but I also thought it showed what kind of teammate Bain is, right? He's like telling his quarterback, "Look, next week we got to be better at this. Make sure you keep your eye on the clock. Let's go." He's got 18 tackles for losses in his career. He has 11 career sacks. He's got incredible strength. He can play inside or out. I do think the injury a year ago against Florida really hurt him all season long. But when Miami needed to make some plays last year on defense, and they did not make enough, generally it was him making the plays. So I suspect his junior year, a money year, I guess it's a money year all the time now in college. I think he's going to have a great season. I think he's a really good kid. I think he's been really well coached, got great direction in his family. Excited to see him against Notre Dame, and I'm glad he's on Miami's side. He's always giving great effort. I think if Bain was to watch the Notre Dame defense, which they probably don't, Notre Dame, I think, gives great effort. If there's consistency in Notre Dame's play, it's their effort. I think Bain would fit into Notre Dame because he gives great effort all the time.
I couldn't let you go without getting a chance to talk about Corey Heatherman because I practiced that name. I want to remember Corey Heatherman, former Minnesota. Great story himself to get to this point. But wrote about some of the stuff he talked about recently with your media down there that there's an obsession to get the ball out. And Notre Dame with Al Golden for 3 years, every practice would start with that, guys going across the field and trying to punch the ball out and tucking it in, and great ramifications if the ball came out. And Notre Dame was the turnover machine last year, the takeaway machine, right at top 5 in every aspect of it. How do you see that manifesting right away? How obsessed are they about punching the ball out or just making life miserable for an opposing offense?
Yeah, well, he talks about it all the time in practice. Knock the ball out, swipe at it, yank at it, whatever you got to do to force turnovers. Miami last year took the ball away only 18 times. It's not bad, but Miami should be better at that. You look at his numbers at Minnesota, 16 points a game, which was 9th in the country, 285 yards a game, which was 5th in the country at Minnesota. He gave up only 109 yards on the ground. I mean, if he duplicates those numbers at Miami, they would be a playoff team. If he duplicates those numbers on Sunday, I think the odds would tilt in Miami's favor compared to what happened a year ago, where Miami gave up like 61 plays of 20 yards or more, gave up 30 points or more in 6 games last season, and quite frankly, at the end of the year, couldn't stop anybody. So if his influence, if he has that kind of impact on the Miami defense, I think they'll be good enough on offense that they would be a playoff team. So he's got this Greg Schiano background, which Mario Cristobal had connections with Greg Schiano. I think Schiano's a really good defensive mind. And if any of that rubs off on the Miami players, then the University of Miami will have a really successful season. His philosophy, I think they say, is going to be more in line with the way kids down here play. So that's, fast and aggressive and get after the quarterback. I will say this. I watched him play in the secondary, and it's like walking into the fun house of mirrors. Everything is like distorted. Guys are coming from different spots. There was an interception the other day in camp. It's like, well, where'd that guy come from? That was pretty good. So I suspect they will be they will be better on defense. They got to be a lot better. It can't be, it can't be much worse. For the University of Miami, last year's defensive showing just was not up to par for Miami standards. By the way, I think the one part about this game that I miss, I was hoping that Al Golden would have still been with Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I loved Al Golden. I really liked him a lot. I kind of thought at Miami he was coaching with one arm behind his back, so I was very happy for his success.
Broyles Award winner, certainly deserved it, and said great things about Notre Dame on his way out the door back to the Bengals. Got to ask you about the kicking situation, because we're expecting a close game, 2.5-point spread, Notre Dame favored. And there's there are transfer kickers at both places, quite common these days. But the last time, Noah Burnett's going to be the guy for Notre Dame, former North Carolina kicker who started his year last year breaking Corey Heatherman's heart with a game-winning field goal at Minnesota. He was kind of erratic from there. Bert Auburn, this Bert Auburn, last I remember, was the guy who kept missing in the college football playoff against Arizona State, and I think it continued for him even against Ohio State. He had a tough playoff. What have you seen out of the Bert Auburn? And good dude.
Well, he's attempted 86 field goals in his career, so he's got the experience. On the other hand, there's a kicker named Carter Davis, who actually, if I look out my window, I can see his high school from my house. Western High School is where Carter Davis went, and he kicked for FAU. His sample size much smaller, 4 for 11, but in training camp, he's got like dynamite in his leg. So it hasn't been decided yet. I wouldn't be surprised if Davis wins the job, but I wouldn't be surprised if Auburn's out there because of experience. So both those guys have been battling. Both of them were getting equal field goal opportunities in the scrimmage. So I think we're just going to have to wait and see who trots out there in the first one. Could be Davis, local kid from Western High School, went to FAU. Bert Auburn, the punter. Hey, here's the surprise. He's from Australia.
There's a lot of those.
We've got some experience with that.
Yeah. Right.
Joe, one
I don't
thing
think Dylan Joyce is not 30 years old like some of these guys, but he's not only is a good punter. One thing about Joyce is he's a really good holder, and he saved Borregales' bacon a few times last year, on some erratic snaps. So that'll probably help one of these guys.
Joe, I wanted to ask you about
hopefully Notre Dame doesn't block a bunch of Miami kicks like they did last year.
Oh,
yeah, no, Notre Dame definitely has that capability. But Joe, I wanted to ask you kind of about this Miami home crowd. I mean, one thing we talked about before we brought you on was historically Notre Dame not done great in South Florida. Obviously, they have the experience last year in the playoff winning there at Hard Rock. We're seeing it's an orange out. You're talking about more wins for the program. They're top 10 in the preseason. From the fan base, what are you expecting in terms of attendance, in terms of just the kind of passion we can see in that stadium, and if they're going to be showing out this season?
I don't think the University of Miami fan base gets enough credit. Sometimes look, I'm not sure that CJ Carr knows what he's walking into. Now, Notre Dame can silence that. Jeremiah Love breaks one or Price breaks one. They can take care of the Miami crowd. But I'm not sure Notre Dame knows what they're walking into. And again, they've got kryptonite. They know what the Miami kryptonite is, or they can toss it out there. They run the ball on Miami or get big plays. They can silence 65,000 fans. But people talk about the Orange Bowl, and it's not the same at Hard Rock Stadium. It's way better at Hard Rock Stadium because of the roof that keeps the sound in. You just have to put a team out there that can win. And, the beauty of the Orange Bowl was, let me see, Andre Johnson, Jerome Brown, Michael Irvin, Vinny Testaverde, Sean Taylor. That was the beauty of the Orange Bowl. Now, the fans, sure, they showed up at the Orange Bowl. Wasn't always a sellout, but I would describe Miami as probably a cross between an old Oakland Raider game and some kind of English Premier game. They're just crazy, and they make a lot of noise. And if it's going in their direction, they're going to cheer louder and harder. Now, if it's not going in their direction, probably sit on their hands. But at the beginning of the game, it's going to be really loud. And I think it'll be tough for CJ to get maybe Notre Dame's got silent count and all that stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if there are a few delay of game penalties. If Miami's winning, it can be an avalanche. If they're not, maybe they won't be quite as loud. But the anticipation is off the charts. You saw it in 2017. We haven't seen it enough at Hard Rock simply because the product hasn't been good enough. But when the product is good, it can be a great home field advantage. Miami went undefeated last year at home, by the way.
It had to go for myriad reasons, but don't you miss the Orange Bowl just a little bit?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, no question. Yeah, sure. They messed that whole deal up. They probably – now it's where the Marlins play.
Right.
It became – people don't understand. Well, Mike was here when it all happened, I think. Oh, yeah. And, the Marlins kind of got in bed with the city and made this horrendous deal for the city. And, our politics down here, we could probably do, I don't know, a long time on that. But now it's where the Marlins play. University of Miami football fans won't go to a Marlins game because they think it's sacred ground.
It is sacred ground.
It is to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. They won't go.
Section 44 row F for me.
They do get criticized a little bit. Sometimes there's shots of the stadium, at a 12 o'clock game. All right, Okay, it's 12 o'clock in September. What do you think people are doing down here? If they're not at the football game, or if they are at the game, the stadium has got like bars and restaurants. So at halftime, people are in those bars and restaurants because the food's really good. And if the game isn't any good, then hell, they're in the bar. But it is a really good stadium. I like the stadium. I miss the Orange Bowl, but I have to give them credit. With this roof and everything, I wish they just had put a full roof on there because I think the weather is going to be bad on Sunday.
Joe, we'll get you out of here on this one. Is this a gotta-get game for Mario Cristobal in that program, or can they come close, maybe lose it at the end, and still have that momentum through 2025?
That's a really good question. I don't have a good answer for it. Mm-hmm. I would say there are two answers. One, they can recover from losing to Notre Dame because they've got other opportunities and they are picked number 2 in the ACC, so they can recover from a loss to Notre Dame. On the other hand, if you beat Notre Dame in Florida, Miami fans would be almost like saying, okay, we're done with the season. We're good. We have bragging rights forever. We beat Notre Dame, we beat Florida. Say that kind of tongue-in-cheek. I think the answer is this. You got to beat Notre Dame and you got to beat Florida. If you're the University of Miami, you got to win those games because nothing else is going to matter. Unless kind of like Michigan last year, or rather Ohio State, where they got all that criticism for losing to Michigan, and then Ohio State fans, they could barely admit that winning the national championship was better than beating Michigan, right? So Miami fans would probably begrudgingly say, oh, yeah, we got to the playoff. We lost to Notre Dame, but we did get to the playoff. One of those deals. If you go back real fast to 89, Miami lost to Notre Dame in 88, right? Mm-hmm. I still don't believe that was a fumble with Cleveland Gary.
It was not. It was a first down.
I think the officials really – yeah, it was a first down, and then the officials also later said, oh, no, it was a turnover on downs. But they got a first down. Mm-hmm. So at any rate, Dennis Erickson comes in the next year. So I do, the show with Dennis Erickson the whole season, the talk show, and no one cared about any other game other than, hey, Dennis, are you going to beat Notre Dame? So, by the way, I think the crowd on Sunday will be like the crowd we had in 2017. They go back to that, or what they had in 89. But the only thing that mattered to Miami fans was, can you beat Notre Dame? We lost to Florida State that year, and it didn't matter. It was beat Notre Dame. We beat Alabama for the championship. It didn't matter. It was, hey, we beat Notre Dame that night. That Saturday night, the weekend of Thanksgiving, we got revenge for what happened in 88.
That's Joe Zagacki, longtime Miami play-by-play voice. Joe, appreciate the time. Loved it. Great stuff.
All right, fellas. Thank you. Mike, good to see you.
You too. Take care. See you down there.
Speak up time. Our listeners, our readers, our fans, I don't know about fans, have submitted a few questions for us, and we'll get to them. First, Pat from Springfield, Illinois. He wants to know, can Notre Dame's offensive line dominate Miami's defensive line?
I'll go first, I guess.
Anyone? Mike's still formulating his prediction.
I think Miami has one of the better defensive lines in the ACC. They have a lot of talent there. We kind of talked in that interview about Ruben Bain. They have a lot of talent. I think Notre Dame's offensive line is still going to be really, really good this year. Dominate the defensive line, that might be a little bit of a tall ask.
I think that the thing that's going in Notre Dame's favor is that the slightest crease is enough sometimes for either back, the top two backs, and that can start to wear on a defense over time. I think they're going to get plenty of run blocking opportunities. I think that's a way to impose your will, and we'll all be watching if Notre Dame can keep this thing to 3rd and short repeatedly, as Aaron Taylor laid out when we talked recently. That's the formula. If you want to establish dominance, you do it on your terms over and over, and then it becomes a case where they know you want to run on 3rd and short, and you still run and pick up the first down, and it's not going to be the QB run this year like Riley Leonard so many times. I think it's just going to be another dose of those dudes in the backfield, and that's how you dominate. I have a hard time believing that it'll be one-sided either way in this game. So much talent on the field, but a lot of unproven talent or new faces in new environments. So, but yeah, Notre Dame has the pieces up front. Remember, 6 starts total going into last year's opener at A&M. This group 52 total starts now.
Totally different.
Yeah, so they know the formula.
Brian from Batavia, Illinois. How good will the kicking game be this season? We've talked a ton about the offense and the defense. The kicking game, I think in all phases. Kickoff return, punt return, kicking, field goals, punting. One big question mark right now for Notre Dame is the kicking game and special teams. Like, are they going to be special? Eventually, the kicking game helped Notre Dame get to a national championship last year with Mitch Jeter making that field goal against Penn State. This kicking game, if Sunday comes down to special teams, Notre Dame might be in for it.
Yeah, honestly, I was a little surprised coming into this season with Marty Biaggi still being the special teams coordinator. There was a point last year where I thought there would be no chance he was still here in 2025. That's how inconsistent some of the special teams were at times. Noah Burnett, from what I could see from his stats, seems like a solid kicker. Seems like he can hit it for 2 for 4, 50-plus yard field goals last year. He's good, fine, but I'll believe it when I see it if we're talking about consistency with the special teams unit.
I don't think, based on what Joe Zagacki told us, I don't think either team wants this to come down to a field goal.
Yeah.
If you got Bert Auburn shanking Bert Auburn, still trying to fight off a challenge from a guy who's 4 for 11 in his career at FAU, it's a concern. Eric Schmidt, out of those 4 guys we're talking about, Eric Schmidt's the one who's probably going to end up having the best career based on the thunder of the attempts. But I don't think he's going to get many chances unless it's one of those 53-plus kind of things. Marty Biaggi has left open that possibility that they could, and he said that in the past, that there could be the 50 and in guy and then the light a candle guy. But James Rendell needs to continue building on that momentum from his playoff. He had an excellent college football playoff. He seemed to finally get comfortable with what he had to do. One of the things that made his second half of the year better is the use of Joseph Vincey as his long snapper, because he's a taller guy. I've talked with Vincey. Both guys are pretty tall. And just where an Australian punter needs to receive the ball on a snap is slightly different maybe than the guys who don't sometimes roll out. And they worked well once they made the change there. Vincey's going to be the long snapper on everything this year, and that'll be an adjustment. And you got Tyler Buckner holding, first-time holder, in a game where he's actually going to let the kicker kick, because he did hold at Tech, but it was a fake, and it was fun. But he's out there now repeatedly, and so the whole operation is to be watched. And I know, Tom, you're not real high on the idea of Love and Price back there in kickoff return. We've got, it looks like Jordan Faison is going to be the first option in the punt return unit. And certainly when healthy, He's only done it a few times in his career, but he certainly had enough wiggle 2 years ago when he first was getting some run. But last year there was the muffed punt against Miami of Ohio, and that was the last game in which he returned punts. They went to Max Hurleman, whose job was mainly rush up there and make sure you make the fair catch. Do not let that ball bounce. And even Max had a muffed punt against Virginia. But yes, kicking questions all the way around, and so many times that is how the game's decided.
We are now 46 minutes into this podcast, and we finally reached wheelhouse status for one Jackson Neill.
Let's go.
He's been waiting on this the entire time. He's efforted it. He's sourced it. He's researched it. Mm-hmm. He was probably up all night trying to find the answer to this question from Chris, from Points Unknown. If you could give Notre Dame basketball coach Micah Shrewsbury 3 guys from this Notre Dame football team to help this year's team, who is going to go play hoops?
All right, so
Jackson, this is yours.
This is the one I was really researching. As soon as I saw this question come in, I knew that I had to come here with a really good answer. I asked my sources. I have some sources that play pickup around the campus. They played pickup with Riley Leonard last year. Said, of course, as you could expect, great basketball player. Didn't have too much intel on this year's team, but that's okay. I looked through the roster. We're going to start out with Bryce Young. Physical freak at 6'7", 270. If he can maybe lose a little weight, could he be a stretch 4 if he develops an outside shot, slashing to the rim? Probably has a good vertical, I'd assume. I think I'm going to go Bryce Young. CJ Carr, 3 varsity letters in basketball in high school. I'll take him. Seems like a point guard kind of type. Tay Johnson. Scored over 1,000 points.
Yeah, he was really good.
478 rebounds in high school at Northside. Multiple sectional titles here in Indiana. That's good basketball right there. And then for a 4th one, just for fun, Jordan Faison, because what other sport could he possibly play?
Mike, you have an answer? Or are you going to let us handle this?
Well, I've talked basketball with Jaden Greathouse, and he was a state champion, I believe, in Austin. And didn't play his final year only because he came up here to enroll early. So I think Jaden Greathouse is my point guard. And Sullivan Absher was certainly talking in a cocky manner about his basketball ability during the spring. He fancies himself as a stretch 4 and played multiple years down in Belmont, North Carolina. And the third one, and nobody's coming right up. I'm going to go with Eli Raridan. Eli Raridan's going to be the banger because, unfortunately, he's had to overcome 2 torn ACLs. The first one was on a basketball court back in Iowa City, in Des Moines. But I'm going to go great. I'm going to put Greathouse, Absher, and Raridan up against your group, and we're just going to pound the ball inside.
All right. When I saw this question, I asked a couple people, our man, 2 shout-outs for Matt Freeman. Yes. On this podcast of who he thought. And he's going through all these guys, and he said, hey, well, this guy did this, and this guy wasn't much of a player, and this guy was. And I thought to myself, look, Micah Shrewsbury has said one thing about this Notre Dame men's basketball team this season is at least they look like a basketball team getting off the bus. I don't know if actually they look like a basketball team walking through the airport, I think was the quote that he gave during his golf outing in July. I don't know if they're quite there yet. So I'm taking 3 guys that you add to this team, regardless of what their skill level is. They look like basketball players.
All airport is
all airport.
Because, like you talked about adding a point guard. Don't know if you need a point guard when you got Marcus Burton. Marcus Burton's going to have the ball. So I'm looking at dudes, and this team needs some dudes. So I'm going with Eli Raridan. I'm going with Bryce Young. And I'm going to throw a guy out there that regardless, it doesn't matter how many points he scores, he's going to carry over his skills from on the football field to the basketball court and be a lockdown defender against those guys from Duke and Louisville and North Carolina, and that's Leonard Moore.
I like that pick.
He's good. He's a good basketball player.
It's don't even look at the basket. If he can cover guys on the basketball court like he does on the football field. Yeah. I'm going with Leonard Moore,
that's
Eli
man
Raridan,
defense right there.
Bryce Young, and I'll take my chances with the guards that Notre Dame has, whether it's Jalen Harrelson, whether it's Marcus Burton we talked about. They've got enough guards and perimeter guys. They need guys that have some size and can bang. And also, since Jackson took 4, I may throw Will Black in there as well. So
you have intel on that? The Canadian...
I was told
related
he was a
to
player.
Leo Routens.
So there you go. Leo Routen's Syracuse guy.
Right.
If Leonard Moore puts on a little more weight, he could be like a Lou Dort type, I'm thinking.
Yeah, just a guy that you just don't. For some reason, when you look at Leonard Moore in the football field, the wide receivers look at him and they're like, "Oh my God, I got to go against this guy." If he's like that on the basketball court, he is the Lou Dort lockdown defender that you need. So, all right, guess what time it is, fellas? We're going prediction time. We're going to go quick on these. Just go boom, 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 rapid fire, one after another. We'll go around the room. 2025 prediction time, quick. Start with you, Jackson, because I know Mike's still.
I know he didn't fill this out.
I didn't look at the list yet.
It'll just be Jackson and I and Mark.
I'm looking at it now.
2025 predictions, regular season record. Jackson, go.
10-2.
Okay, I'm going to go 11-1. Mike.
10-2.
Offensive MVP, Jackson.
Jeremiah Love.
I will go with CJ Carr.
Love.
2 for Jeremiah Love. Defensive MVP,
Going
Jackson.
a little outside for this one. I'm going with Bryce Young. I think he really breaks through this year.
He's going to have a pretty big year. Mike B.
Drake Bowen.
I will go with Adon Schuler as the defensive MVP breakout. Offensive breakout standout, Jackson.
Micah Gilbert.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I saw him catch a deep ball. I'm just going to go for it. Just figure he's not a guy no one's... His standout, breakout has to be someone no one's talking about, right?
Right. So, it's got to be a wide receiver, doesn't it?
Gerby Lambert.
As the breakout guard. How do you judge a breakout
It's my
guard?
party, honestly.
I'm just like...
Breakout. Breakout's a guy who hasn't done it before.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he does it. Breakout star, Gerby Lambert.
All right, you went offensive line. You went wide receivers, Jackson. I'll go with Nolan James Jr. just for the heck of it.
Good one.
There you go.
So, defensive breakout standout. Anyone?
Luke Talich. I'm going to go with him.
Okay.
Hard hitting.
I'm going to go Jalen Stroman. As a guy that we really haven't seen much of between he and Devontae Smith. New guys coming in. Everybody talks about Adon Schuler. They talk about the linebackers. They talk about the defensive linemen. Nobody's talked a lot about Jalen Stroman, who right now, if the game was played tonight, would be the starting safety opposite Adon Schuler. So there. Who's your breakout guy?
You know, they play so many guys on defense, and this whole idea of breakout is really gets tricky here. Jalen Stroman, that makes me think of Marcus's line about faith beyond knowing.
Yes.
And they all have to have some faith
Delayed gratification.
Well, it's a faith beyond knowing
Handle
because
success.
we certainly haven't seen very much of Stroman, and I suppose they have if they've seen enough. So, and here it goes. I just keep thinking we're not talking at all about Carson Hobbs. He's a talented player. He was right there kind of neck and neck with Leonard Moore in terms of guys who were on deck, and then the opportunity was there for Moore. Anything goes sideways at any of the spots, nickel or the two corners, it's not going to be Golden. It's not going to be Zachary at this stage. I think they pop Hobbs. I think he's he's the first guy in if there's a need at any of those three vitally important spots. And from what it sounds like, he's a very talented, confident guy. Mike Mickens has talked about, and that would be my choice. They hope they don't have to have that as the breakout guy, but we know it's a long season.
Pot of bold time. Do we have a pot of bold bumper?
Yes, we do.
All right, let's roll. Easiest, quickest segment of the show. Give me one hot take, one score prediction. Miami, Notre Dame, Sunday night, Hard Rock Stadium, 7:30. ABC has the telecast. Who wants to go first with their hot take and score prediction?
I'll go first. I'm ready.
Look at you!
I just
I'm
assumed
on
it was
the
going to
ground.
be me. Wow.
I'm on the ground right now. Mike Berardino is prepared.
Coming out hot week one.
Just for that one. Just for that one.
We have no idea what
are
this-
the categories?
It's the hot take.
That's what the categories.
Give me a
I
hot
buzzed
take.
in, but I didn't know the category.
You're like, buzzer. Hot take and a score. Let's go.
Score, I already had to log that 24-17 Notre Dame. Hot take was within my prediction. It's in the South Bend Tribune, but still go click on that that was put together. And I'm going to say that Carson Beck will throw at least 2 interceptions. I also didn't have space for that, but I'll say I think he's going to be sacked at least 3 times.
There you go. Jackson, Hot take.
Literally, it's the exact same. I said
What?
Carson Beck throwing multiple interceptions, had 4 multi-INT games last season, including throwing 3 against Bama and Texas in big games. He doesn't perform well. That was mine. I'm trying to think of anything else, just kind of off the cuff. I think you know what? How about this? I'll say CJ Carr doesn't throw an interception. I'll do that as my bull. I'll do that as my bull take. I don't think they're going to throw the ball downfield. I don't think they're going to push him too hard. And then I have Notre Dame winning 24-21, and I think kind of an ugly game.
My hot take, Notre Dame scores a defensive touchdown on Sunday night. Score prediction, Notre Dame 24, Miami 20 to carry through where they pick up where they left off from 2024. This is a program type of win from Notre Dame, saying last season was no fluke. They went 14-2. They beat Texas A&M. They ran the table after losing to Northern Illinois. This is a big step for Notre Dame to prove that they can carry through year after year and not be like, well, they were good in 2024. Maybe they'll be okay in 2025. They win this game. They win the Texas A&M game. Watch out the rest of the way. So 24-20 Irish. We will talk post-Miami on Tuesday without Mike Berardino, unless he wants to call in from South Florida. It'll be Jackson. It'll be myself. And we will talk to you next week on the next edition of Pot of Gold.
This has been the South Bend Tribune's Pot of Gold podcast, your home for insightful Notre Dame football coverage and analysis.